Most people don't realize it. Buying the wrong condo can cost you thousands of dollars. And not just up front, but every single year that you own it. The condo market is flooded with options, a lot more than single family homes like standalone homes. And I'll be honest, at least half of them are not the best options. So if you're not careful, you can end up stuck with a condo that's impossible to resell and it comes with a lot of headaches along the way and potentially costs you thousands and thousands of dollars you did not plan for. So in today's video, I'm going to break down for you what types of condos that you never should buy. Bad condo purchases hurt you twice, both with the purchase price and the ongoing annual costs. And then, of course, there's the special assessments, which we're going to talk about as well. Resale value is everything. A condo that is hard to sell traps you. And there's a lot of things that you need to watch out for to make sure that that condo is going to be easy to sell when you're done with living there. I've been doing this for 9 years in Snohomish County here. We've helped over 1,600 families make a move. So I've seen patterns across hundreds of condo transactions that a lot of other agents just don't have the experience of. So I want to share that with you today. And we're going to break down all of the red flags that you need to be aware of. Let's jump right into it. Red flag number one is a bad floor plan. So what should you be avoiding when it comes to the floor plan? Well, try to avoid long hallways that are super narrow. These are just dead space that you're paying for. It adds really nothing. And when I say long hallways, I mean not only in the condo itself, but also like in the common area, because common areas are maintained through HOA dues. So like if you've got these long hallways everyone uses to access their units, maybe not the best thing. But inside the unit, you also don't want that either because it really locks down the floor plan and it makes it feel very boxed in. The other thing is curvature or angles. This is going to result in wasted space where you can't set up furniture efficiently. You see a lot of these angles that are like 45-degree angles on outside walls, inside walls with fireplaces that are on angles. It looks cool in photos, but when you practically go to set up your furniture, it just doesn't work most of the time. And it ends up looking kind of awkward or even feeling awkward when you're actually living in it. So another big one is a kitchen that's up against a wall. This is a poor cooking experience. Buyers notice and skip it. A lot of these older condos have these like narrow kind of pass-through, walk-through kitchens, like a galley kitchen is what we call it. And they're just not open. So buyers don't want that. And so you should be very careful about buying something that's got a layout like that. Look for that open floor plan, that open kitchen that's got a big island, ideally, that opens up to the great room and that just feels wide open and not boxed in. Another thing on the floor plan to watch out for is the second bathroom being too far from the second bedroom. That's going to be poor livability and poor resale. And also with the bedrooms, you don't want both bedrooms side by side. Like ideally, say it's a 1,000 square foot condo, you want to have one bedroom on one side, one on the other side, and then having the living space and the kitchen in the middle. It just provides a lot more privacy where you're not stacked up against each other. When you look at a lot of condos where the beds are just right next to each other, oftentimes those were apartment buildings that were converted into condominiums later on. So what does a good floor plan look like? I told you what to avoid, but what's a good one look like? Well, it looks like no wasted space at the entryway. It gets right down to business, just opens up into the great room or into the kitchen area or some kind of logical space. A peninsula style kitchen or island, buyers love it. Like I said, people spend a lot of the time at the island or the peninsula. That's where oftentimes people eat on the go. Everyone's busy these days. They rarely sit in a dining room and a dining table and have a formal meal. They more eat on the go and just kind of sit down at the island or the peninsula and they scarf down their food and move on with their day. So buyers love it. It's going to boost the resale value. A proper boxed layout, meaning like 90-degree walls, no angles. It's going to allow your furniture set up efficiently. I'm going to grab a couple of floor plans and put them up here on the screen for you so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. This plan right here is kind of one of those that I would avoid that has the bedrooms close together. And then this one over here has got them more kind of spread apart and it's more open space. It's not boxed in. So two different, floor plans, but that floor plan is very hard to change. So you want to make sure you get it right. And hopefully seeing those floor plans helps you understand what I'm talking about. That gets me to red flag number two, is too many amenities. Amenities sound amazing. Like a pool, a sauna, a golf simulator, a party room, a meeting room, like they sell you all this awesome stuff. And it sounds great, but you pay for all of it. And the reality is most people don't use these things very often. So more amenities equals more staff, more maintenance, more repair costs. If there's a leak in the swimming pool, it's going to drive up your maintenance fees. Kind of a general rule of thumb on this is less is more. Stick to buildings with modest amenities and, just kind of consider that the lower cost per month on the HOA dues is going to more than make up not having access to some of these things that you're going to infrequently use. People always think they're going to use the weight room, the swimming pool, all these things, and they rarely do in reality. So especially in the Northwest where swimming pools, they're outside oftentimes and it's cold and wet and rainy here, not the best place for a swimming pool. Different story if you live in Arizona or Texas. So red flag number 3 is crazy high HOAs. So a reasonable range for HOA dues is $3 to $4 per square foot per year. So let's do some very simple math. We're going to put this on the screen for you so you can follow me along here. If we have a $450,000 condo that is 1,000 square feet and it's $4 a square foot for the HOA, that'd be $4,000 a year or $333 a month. There's the math right there. Hopefully that breaks down for you. So this would be considered a reasonable HOA due, okay? But you also have to look a little bit deeper than just the dues and see what does this HOA actually include. Are they including things like water, sewer, and garbage, or is it just common area maintenance? If it includes water, sewer, and garbage, that's a big difference. It could definitely be allowed to go higher because those would be bills you're going to get outside of the HOA if it's not part of it. And those are normally going to be billed to you direct. So key cost drivers are going to be excessive amenities, concierge type services, poor building financial health. The math just simply has to make sense. So do your homework if you're going to buy a condo and make sure you run the numbers on the HOAs. If the HOAs are too high and they don't balance to the size of the condo and the price of the condo, then it's going to make it hard to resell later. Like for instance, if we have a $400,000 condo here and the HOA dues are $650 a month, that makes really no financial sense for people to buy. And so that HOA due can trap you with holding on to that condo unit much longer than you would like and make it very difficult for a buyer to actually purchase it from you. So keep that in mind. You have to remember with HOA dues, the HOA dues are factored into a buyer's debt to income ratio for lending purposes. So it's not just the mortgage, but it's also the HOA dues. So every dollar that goes to an HOA is a dollar less they can have in a mortgage. Keep that in mind. Red flag number 4 is low reserve funds. This is a big one that a lot of people don't know about that can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. The reserve fund is like the building's rainy day savings account for emergency repairs. Too low of an HOA fee monthly means that there's no reserves, so you got to be careful if the HOAs are also too low as well as too high. You're kind of looking for them to be in the middle. Too low is not a good thing. I want to be very clear about that. But a low reserve fund equals a very high risk of special assessments, which is like a surprise bill to the owners. It's a cost that the HOA did not have budgeted, and now they need to bill all of the owners for the cost of this improvement. Some examples that I have seen are LP siding on condo buildings that had to be completely ripped off and re-sided. It was like $50,000 per unit to do this. I've seen window replacements where there was old aluminum windows and they had to be replaced with vinyl windows, and it was like $12,000 per unit. I saw faulty decks where the decks were leaking. They had to be ripped off and replaced on the whole condo building, and it was like $20,000 per unit in special assessments. So there is nothing special about this. You do not want this. This is an unexpected surprise to most buyers when it happens, but there's a lot of things you can do to avoid it. So like I said, in the Northwest here in Washington, in our market, the aluminum window replacement and the LP siding replacement are two big ones to watch out for. You're going to see LP siding on a lot of the condo buildings that were built in the late 80s and the 90s. By the early 2000s, LP siding was replaced with hardy plank siding on most of the builds in this area. But LP siding had a class action multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against it because the siding simply disintegrated in a wet climate like we have here in the Northwest. So you really have to look out for this and know what you're looking at. This is where a great agent who understands siding and construction can definitely point these things out for you. But maintenance fees can spike suddenly when the reserve fund is depleted. So how do you check and see how well funded this particular HOA is, and then do an assessment on how likely is it that there's going to be a special assessment on this particular building? Well, you want to review the resale certificate before you buy. It's all in there. A resale certificate is required to be provided from a seller to a buyer for a buyer's review when they're buying a condo. And most contracts when you're buying a condo are going to be contingent on your review and your agent's review of this resale certificate, meaning if you don't like what you see, you can typically back out, get your earnest money back, and go find something else. So this is very important, and I want to give you some benchmarks on what to look for. Your agent should do this for you, but as an informed buyer, you should also be aware of what to look at. I like to look for $5,000 per unit in reserves. If it's under $3,000, I'm going to be concerned about the likelihood of a special assessment going up. These are just reserve money. These are dollars in the bank the HOA has for unexpected costs that come up. Like, again, siding replacement, window replacement, something like that. And this isn't guaranteeing you that it's going to keep you from having a special assessment, but the predictability of it not happening goes down quite a bit when there's a healthy reserve fund, and the HOA dues are also reasonable, but also adding to the reserve fund as well. So as an example, just simple math, I'm going to put this up on the screen as well. If there's 20 units in the complex, I want to see 20 times 5,000. So that'd be $100,000 in reserves. Pretty simple math, right? Let's look at the budget too. The budget's going to really show us, is there particular line item budgets for commonly replaced items? Things that I look for, is there a roof budget for replacement? If there's no roof budget for replacement, be very concerned about how that HOA is ran. Is there a budget for exterior siding replacement? Again, siding is typically replaced like every 30 to 50 years, not every 10 years, but there should be a budget for it. If there's not, when it needs to be replaced, it's going to be a special assessment for sure. So that gets me to red flag number 5, additional buyer traps to avoid. Just some generalities here. The building type, avoid super high-rise buildings. It's going to have less of a community feel. You're going to have potential elevator problems where it's hard to get an elevator at certain times of the day. More people equals more issues. In downtown Seattle, there is a lot of these, and they typically have very high HOA dues as well. Like I've seen some as high as $4,000 a month in HOA dues when we get to the $4 or $5 million condo price range, which makes sense, but it's something to be aware of. These are nice buildings, very luxurious buildings, a great lifestyle, but with that comes a lot of cost. So be prepared for that if you're looking for that, okay? But I like to target low to mid-rise buildings for better living experience and for resale. So as far as location red flags go, vacant lot or empty parking lot next door, that usually means the developer is going to build there. And if you've got a view, that view is going to go away. So you want to check what's coming. Your agent can research who owns adjoining lots and what might be planned there. If any applications for building permits have been submitted, you'd be able to access that on that city's building permit site. And then you want to know what the building culture is like too. Is there high rental ratio? Meaning, is there a lot of people that are renters versus owners? Is there more turnover, less community, more wear on the building, things like that? Short-term rentals, are you allowed to do Airbnbs or not? If you are, it's great for you as an owner, but it has downsides. We're going to have transient people coming in and out all the time that are moving around. So that's going to bring noise, strangers, building wear, people that just don't care about the building like an owner would. And then when it comes to the rental side of things, you want to know what the percentage of owner occupied versus rented is. And that's going to also be on that resale certificate, okay? You're going to know that there's a rental cap as well. A rental cap just means, is there availability in how many units are allowed to be rented out to rent my unit out? So this might not matter to you if you're going to own or occupy the unit, but if you want to potentially rent it later on, you want to make sure there's space in the rental cap to actually do that when you're ready to do it. And then, is that rental cap currently met or not? This is all found on the resale certificate. When it comes to unit specifics, just general red flags, a unit next to an elevator or garbage chute, going to be constant noise, going to impact livability. You want to get away from that elevator, get away from the garbage chute. North-facing units, going to have the least amount of natural light, smaller buyer pool when you go to sell. West-facing, those are going to be ideal. Too few elevators for the building size. That's going to be long waits, especially the 5 to 7 p.m. rush hour. You might find yourself waiting 5 to 10 minutes for an elevator, which is really frustrating. You got a place to be. And if you're on the 7th floor, you probably don't want to go down that many steps or up that many steps. So as you can see, there are a lot of potential problems and risks that can come with buying a condo. It definitely adds another layer of complexity that a house does not have. But if you have an agent that knows what they're doing and that has a lot of experience navigating all these variables, you can make a sound decision, know your investment is totally safe. If you're thinking about buying or selling a home here in Snohomish County, you can connect with us using the links below. Of course, like, share, subscribe to this video so it gets to more people. And if you're thinking about buying or selling, fill out the form below. There's a link to it, and we'll reach out to you if we think that it could be a good fit to work together. We help qualified buyers and motivated sellers every day and have helped over 1,600 families make a move right here in Snohomish County. I'll see you on my next video.